Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm good evening. Welcome to the Digital Innovation. First, I would like to call Mr. Umair Farooqi to recite some verses from the Holy Quran. Mr. Umair, please.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Hamza Farooqi. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد صدق الله العظيم.
Jazakallah. I would now like to invite Dr. Izhar Hussain, Director, Center for Executive Education, for his welcome note. Dr. Izhar Hussain, ladies and gentlemen.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. It is too nice to see you at this point of time, busy rush hours, and you have opted for this very important step towards digitalization. I'm thankful to Javaid Iqbal Saab, Asad Abdullah Saab, Junaid Iqbal Saab, and Ghias Khan Saab for sparing their time for this seminar. And I am also thankful to Kareem for giving 50% discount to the people coming using Kareem at this point of time. I don't know whether to IBA. When we are talking about digitalization, it is important that we should think how far we are from digitalization. And in this gathering, people are from academia, from business, from corporate, and from USA. So we think that we should do some review that what is being done and what is required for innovation. Are we ready for innovation? And are we ready for digital innovation? And how important it is that we should go for digital innovation in Pakistan. Digitalization and innovation you can take separately, and you can and there is one type of innovation which is very rampant, very common in Pakistan, which is called Jugaad. Jugaad is innovation, and Jugaad is part of our life. People think that Jugaad is bad. I think Jugaad is good, because Jugaad is possible when some neurons are working, and when neurons are active, the Jugaad can be done. Otherwise, if neurons are inactive or not present, it would be difficult for shortcuts that are for fixing problems in Pakistan. Before I go for digitalization and innovation, I would like to tell you that in IBA, we have a very competent team for analytics. Analytics, which is associated with digitalization. It is important that we should understand the importance of data management. Data banks, data management, the huge data is available, but we are not utilizing that data. We conducted two focus group that what those experts which we have can deliver to corporates, to the government, but still we are just thinking that some people will come and make use of those experts which are available with us. We have excellent team. That team is not purely academics. They worked in corporate sector in Pakistan and abroad, and they are still involved in corporate assignments outside Pakistan. Those people, we have a team of about 4 or 5 people who are expert in analytics, data management, and we are looking forward that people should come to them. They are ready to help them. They are ready to give their time to them. And I think that would be a good area where we can contribute from IBA side. IBA is a place where we would like to bring the best together. Bring the best together not only in terms of education, but also in terms of not only in degree programs, but also in non-degree programs. Most of the people think that degree programs are more important than non-degree programs. And how many people in this audience agree to this point? Please show your hand that degree programs are more important than non-degree programs. How many agree with this premise? Okay. So while I was studying, I studied something, and most of you also studied x plus y whole square, x square plus y square plus 2x y. Till today, I could not apply it. It was mandatory for me to pass my FSC examination or metric examination. So this is the situation. That is the part of degree programs. I am not talking against degree program. This is a degree awarding institution. But what I am saying is that now degree programs are very important, because whatever people learn during degree programs, most of the times they are thinking of the grades, they are thinking of the degree, they are thinking of the opportunities because of the GPA in getting the jobs in the corporate sectors. But if you ask them to apply what they learned during degree programs, you will find that very few people can apply it. For example, current marketing syllabi includes Blue Ocean strategy. Blue Ocean strategy is a very romantic area. Everybody would like to love it. Everybody thinks that is a fantastic idea. But ask people, can you apply this strategy in the work environment you are involved in? How many of us can apply Blue Ocean strategy in, if they have to help Nawaz Sharif for applying Blue Ocean strategy, what they will do? So this is important that in most of the organizations, the thinking is linear. Thinking is linear, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So do we want to go like this, or we have to do something? Because this is an age of, this is digital age, but basically the D is more towards disruption. It's the age of disruption. Age of disruption in technology, age of disruption in doing business, age of disruption in making business models. So everything is disrupting. You can have Kareem, large fleet of cars and drivers without having a single car and single driver. What is this? Is it not disruption? And look at the growth in multiples. Growth in multiples, how it is coming. People think that for starting business, they require money, they require kind of connections, they require many things. But it has been proven that money is not required, the idea is required. Money is not required, idea is required, and execution of that idea is required. It is important that we should transform our dreams into some output, some reality. So the reality is coming. So if we keep on growing linearly, the situation will be, you can see that where the situation is. During 1960s and 70s, we were among top 10 in the world. Our GDP was growing faster than China and India. But now our GDP is not growing by that rate. The acceleration is slow. So we need to grow, and we need to think, we need to plan something differently. We have to think exponentially. We have to look for the logarithmic growths if we would like to occupy the commanding heights in the economic world at this point of time. There are certain countries which were behind us. Now they have overtaken us. Even a country which was part of Pakistan is growing faster than Pakistan. So it is some challenge which we have to look into and see what is being done. This slide shows that. Okay. Now look at this slide. This is Exponential Technologies that can create $100 billion plus industry. But where we are we using mobile phones completely? If the mobile phones are used properly and as they can be used, Kareem's utilization would be many times. Many people can use this facility. At this point of time, I think most of the people do not know how to use Google Maps, how to ask for Kareem services, ask for something like that. Is it true or not? So if we look at this slide, we are at the bottom of this slide. Perhaps we are not using that. And if we have to go for internet, social media, biotech, networks, robotics, nanotech, they are latent to this part of the world. Is it true or not? Now the question is that all these things are there. As an academic institution, as an institution which provides executive education, we would like your help that how we can help in creating culture for innovation, for usage of digitalization, and for going for these type of technologies which are already available in the market. And by using these technologies, we can create disruption and also get the position which we lost during last few years. Next slide, please. If we look at this slide, you will find that these are the areas where billions of people can be affected. And you can give services to different people. You can create businesses, and businesses which can make billions. People say that USA is land of opportunity. I think Pakistan is land of opportunity. If you look at the statistics, you will find that in many commodities, in many minerals, in many resources, we are among the top 10 in the world. Sometimes Afridi was giving an interview. He was telling the person that when I recite Surah Rahman, I think it is for Pakistan. And I totally agree with him that the resources which you have are abundant. You have historical background. We are in the country, we have been in agriculture for last 7,000 years. We are planning cities for 5,000 years. But when we look at Karachi, we think that we are going back 5,000 minus years. We are in the reverse gear. What we are doing. So there are opportunities not only in energy, in education, in global health, security, water, food. We are saying that water, we have a scarcity in water. But if you look at the statistics, you will find that we are using more water per hectare and we are producing less per hectare in our agriculture. We are agro-based country. And if our productivity in agriculture is also requires innovation, then it is a matter of concern. So with this, we think that we should remember whom we should not, we usually remember during when we are in such gatherings. Allama Iqbal, who said, "Justuju hai khoob se hai khoob tar kahan." We are not looking for good and better and best for our country, for our people, for our businesses. Thank you very much. Now I would like to invite the person who is, because of him this ये महफिल इस उनके लिए सजाई गई है. मुखालिफ ने कहा था कि तकरीब कुछ तो बहरे मुलाकात चाहिए, तो ये मुलाकात उसी तरह से है. जावेद इकबाल साहब, प्लीज़ कम. Javaid Iqbal Sahab is a digital futurist, 20-year focus on customers. Previously, he was in ENY and BWC, co-founder Transformex, BSc Purdue University. He did BS from there and MSc from Northwestern University. But now he is applying whatever he learned and he is innovating. Thank you very much.
How about now? Seems like it is. Dr. Saab, thank you for the words. I think you must have stole about 30% or 40% of my presentation already. It seems like we're in the business of solving problems using the right technology. But I think if you start thinking where this is headed in itself, some of the problems that are being solved are big in magnitude. But like you said, it doesn't have to be too big. It could be a jugaad as well. And we know we have hashtags. I think we should, Kamran, we should add a digital jugaad hashtag to this as well, because I think that will really blow up the internet on that one. But as I was thinking about this event as well and talked about putting this together as well, I kept on asking myself, what are some of the innovations that we are looking at in the developing world, especially in our country? And where can they begin to take us to the next level? Dr. Saab talked about the resources we have. We cannot underestimate the number of people we have as well. Because if you think about it, 4 countries of the world, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and China. So united India and China. That's half your world's population. So all the innovations that get done in the Western world, we like to copy it at times and try to bring it over here. But what we fail to do is provide some sort of a local flavor. And since we're in the Kareem mode these days and the 50% discount that Dr. Saab talked about as well, it's interesting how that company has evolved. Because I'll speak for myself. I never enjoyed driving a car. I never aspired to have the latest and the greatest Ferraris of the world like many of my friends did. And when someone came up with a solution for this, I said to myself, how lucky am I? Where I don't have to worry about sitting in a car and dealing with the traffic and so forth. I could be doing so many more productive things. And yet, someone came up with a formula where I got to do what I wanted, and someone got livelihood out of this as well. I think that's genius. I was recently in Lahore and came across a Kareem captain who had taken inspiration from all the things Kareem was doing and started 2 technology startups solving some problems for the city of Lahore as well. My parents and I, we were in Islamabad recently, and we took a Kareem ride to Murray. And we found out that the person who was driving us had convinced one of his cousins to come back from a labor job he was doing somewhere in the Middle East and learn very good livelihood for their families. And the third was recently in Dubai last week, where this one was very unique actually. Now his customers have become his patients. He's a psychiatrist almost by trade, doing Kareem as well. So none of these life stories would have been possible without a platform that would have done this. Guys, there's something wrong with this. Maybe not. Maybe this is better now. So if you think about all the challenges we have as a nation, where we're headed, and how some of these technology platforms can help with these challenges, the answer is not too far off. My first foray into a ride-sharing economy was back in 2010. I was in the city of San Francisco, and we had just taken a customer to a baseball game. And when we came out of that baseball game, there were about 20,000 people waiting in line to get a cab, and there was no cab in sight. So this young customer of mine, a 25-year-old boy, he said, I'm going to call an Uber. And I said, okay, fine. I was responsible for taking this customer to dinner after the game. I said, sure, go find it. I'm calling all the taxis that I can get the numbers for. And I kid you not, 5 minutes later, this car showed up. We got in the car. It went and dropped us off. And as we sat in the car, I asked the guy, I said, what happened here? How do we do this? And he said, oh, well, there's an app which takes the location, takes the maps, the technology and everything behind it, and takes you and maps you and matches you with the ultimate driver, and you can go and do your thing. When they dropped us off, I walked half a block to the restaurant, and after about 10 steps I stopped. I said, Chris, you never paid the guy. And he said, well, oh, I forgot to tell you, that was already in your profile, your credit card is backed up and all that stuff. I swear I could not sleep that night. I kept on thinking to myself that a very simple transaction where you get in a taxi cab and go somewhere and get dropped off can be done in such a sophisticated manner. What are we in the ride for? What else are my customers going to ask me to solve for them? Because where we're living right now, whether we like it or not, every day you become more savvy with technology. Everyone around you either tells you about a new app that can solve the next problem that you have, or the apps that you're currently using adds more features and functions that solves more problems you have. So whether we like it or not, we are part of an evolution of digital technology. And if we don't, as businesses, as people, have part of that in our theories, in our learnings, in our execution strategy, we don't have a strategy for business for the next 10 to 15 years. Now, people ask me here in the developing world, what does that mean? I don't know much about these technologies. Well, I have a different opinion to that. This uncle of mine, when I was a kid, he's sitting in this audience, I'm not going to tell you who he is. He said to me once that everyone in this world has one thing that's equal, and that's 24 hours. It is what you do in those 24 hours that make a difference. Well, let me add something to that. You also have access to the same Google. And what I mean by Google is the same technology, the same web, the same infrastructure and innovation and so forth. It is how you utilize that that makes the whole difference. It's how you understand that that makes the whole difference. Let me ask you this. How many of you are users of Facebook? I should have asked the other way around, actually. I would have just left you, probably. Do you know what version of Facebook you're on? By all means. Do you? Do you care? You're on the same version of Facebook that someone sitting in San Francisco is. Right? So guess what? It's an equalizing platform. Unless it's the end of the quarter and they're doing an upgrade and you're 3 days behind, I get that. But by and large, you are on the same version of these technologies. So the innovation that you need to come up with using these technologies to solve local problems is a given. How many of you had the opportunity to with Lego as a child, or Lego, a lot of people called it as well? Now, what was the concept of Lego? Building. Creating. Right. But I remember it had this green base and all these little blocks. Well, but now if you go Lego, they even make a Taj Mahal and everything else. Let's not go there. But with Lego, all you had was a platform and your imagination. That's exactly what you have now. These platforms are much cheaper than they used to be. In most cases, they're free. Because guess what? You're paying them with your address book and all the information about you. It's a completely different story. But the innovation cannot and does not need to stop just because you have not been to that yet. When companies in the Western world or the developed world solve problems, let's take an example of Uber again. To get the Uber thing going, if the folks at Uber had to take 10 moving parts and create that platform, out of those 10 moving parts, probably 6 or 7 of them had already been figured out by either their government or the other businesses or the people or the universities in that region. All they had to do was come up with those 3 or 4, piecemeal them together and make it happen. If you think about our region, if you need 10 of them to solve that same problem, you probably have only 3 or 4 that are solved for you. That. So the opportunity, like Dr. Azhar said, is much bigger. You can solve the problem of that one part only as well, with a vision of the big one. Or you can go for the big one as well. Either ways, you can be innovating. A lot of us here grew up seeing family businesses grow. And like Dr. Saab said, the agricultural businesses grow. And now we are in an age where we're seeing startups grow as well, like Kareem and the likes. So as we were thinking about this program, on what to bring to you in terms of innovation being created and caused by these types of companies, we chose these 3 very categories. And we found 3 outstanding individuals to have a conversation with about them. And what you'll learn, that regardless of the fact that they either represent a large corporation or a family business or startups, the tenets of business, the understanding of technology, the aspects of culture do not change. They are the creators of innovation. We, at the other end, are the consumers of innovation. Consumers have never in the history of time been so powerful than they are now. You now have the power with one tweet and a hashtag digital jugaad. I like that a lot, Dr. Saab. And really influence the outcome of a company. United Airlines, I don't know if people saw what just happened in the US as well. They yanked somebody off the plane and the whole thing. And there's so many other examples that I see my friends in startups dealing with every day. So then the question becomes, if your business is so exposed, how are you dealing with this? Because those people are managing your brands for you if you're not managing it for you. I'll give you an example. Some years ago, while I was sitting in the US, we ordered pizza for dinner one day for me and my wife and kids. And we ordered it from Domino's Pizza. Now, Domino's had just come up with this new program or a new feature where on their website or on their app, you can go and see where the pizza was at that particular time. Was it in the oven? Was it being picked, or was it being made? Or is it on the way, delivery, and so forth? Now, Domino's was taking too long. It took about 2 hours to deliver that pizza. So instead of calling them, I decided to tweet. I wrote, what's the point of having this tracker, pizza tracker, if you cannot deliver on time? The results shocked me. Because before Domino's could make a statement to me, Pizza Hut reached out to me and said, next time order us. So, like I said, if you're not managing it for you, someone else is managing it for you. Now, unfortunately for a lot of us, we believe that creating a Facebook account or a Twitter account is our key to digital success. Hope to God that's not your strategy. Because if you don't have the right back end to support that, not only the technology side, first the vision. An understanding of what you're doing in your business and where your customers are going. If you don't have that, then even a Google query cannot save you, Raza. So we are going through interesting times. And what I like to do next is bring one by one our colleagues, our guests today, and have this conversation and take it forward. And the way we'll do this is we'll get them on stage one by one, and then at the end we'll have a Q&A, and then we'll wrap it up. So our first segment, which I believe has always been a very, very, very important segment for the backbone of our country. I come from a family business myself, and this is about how family businesses can start thinking ahead. And the family business that this person represents really embodies how to look at the next generation of customers. I welcome Asad Abdullah. Warehouse.
Yes or no? Hello?
I think it.
It's on.
Yeah.
Hello?
I think once.
Okay. Hello? Yeah.
All right.
So you can tell I'm from family business when somebody hoots in the crowd. कोई ना कोई family member ज़रूर होता है.
It's good that your family likes you, Asad.
Yeah?
That's always a good sign.
Yeah. Sure.
Is that sort of your digital innovation that your family likes you, Asad?
No, I think beyond that, I think.
Beyond
Yeah.
So first of all, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you for coming. Tell us about a little background on how this family business that you're part of now, that you're doing a very across the board leadership role at, and sort of guiding them through to the next phase of the business as well. Give us a little background about the inception, the pivots, the innovation, the challenges, just a few minutes.
All right. So I think for people that don't know what our business is, so primarily as a family, we've been distributors over a century, pre-partition from Delhi, where we started distributing for British American tobacco, and then post-partition, family moved from Delhi to Karachi. We continued to distribute for then Pakistan tobacco, and then eventually got into sort of pharmaceutical distribution, consumer products, and really at that time, as traders or distributors, whatever opportunities we were able to find to partner with companies that were looking for representation, that's really how the business kind of came into place. About maybe close to 25, 27 years ago, so our entire family went through a transformation where there was a break in the family business, so a certain portion kind of broke off. They went their separate way, our family went our way, and then post that, I think about 20 years on, 20, 25 years on, so we built a business primarily based on the distribution side of the business, but eventually moving into manufacturing, getting into pharmaceutical manufacturing and sales, and also into retailing. So today, if I look just with a quick sort of overview of what the business is, so primarily we're in 3 different verticals or industries. One is retail distribution, the other is retailing through some of our operating companies, and the last is pharmaceutical and healthcare. So that's really what the business is. I've been involved in this business since 2002, so I've been here now 15 years. So I've seen a lot change over the 15 years as well. And today, we're actually going through a fantastic exercise and an entire transformation of the group from being family-owned and family-run to hopefully professionally managed. So I'm part of the transformation team to take it from what maybe 5-10 years ago was primarily managed by the family to hopefully professionalization, and then through that, whatever technology that we need to implement, whatever systems that we need to implement to manage that. So that is basically the phase in the business that we're in. So exciting times for us, and a lot of learning for me as well. And I think a lot of interesting things that are happening right now.
Fascinating, fascinating. So let's sort of go back in time and talk about sort of your journey into this. I mean, you're talking about how you're helping them look at the next generation of customers, businesses, and so forth. And you're also sort of helping them with their digital and then technology strategy and so forth.
Yeah.
How did you sort of come about this as you started working for this group a while ago? How did you grow into the role you're in?
Yeah.
How did you manage that? And then what were some of the obstacles, challenges, opportunities?
Yeah. So I've been in this group for 15 years, primarily in operating capacities. So my uncle, who was a chairman, had aspirations, and his learning from transitioning a business that was run by himself and his cousins to eventually breaking off. So for him, he was very clear. I think when we were still in high school, he told his brothers that, well, family business mein koi bachcha nahi aayega. He was very clear on that. He felt that it was really important that we did not feel entitled to join the business, and he had set certain rules and regulations under which a family member could join the business. So I think in the sort of the mid-90s, that in itself was a very forward-looking approach. I think a lot of family businesses, even today, do not operate like that. But at that time, we were still young, impressionable. We said, okay, fine. So the rules really were work outside, first get an education, work outside, and then eventually join the business. So I did work outside. I did graduate. I did work outside. I ended up joining the business on a very low level, operating capacity, one of the side businesses that really didn't matter to the group. And then eventually I worked my way up. I moved from one operating company to another operating company, different roles within the companies, and eventually I had a very nice handle of what the entire group looked like. There were times where things were amazing. There were certain times there were a lot of challenges that I had to face, a lot of learning that I did during that. And I think throughout that process of learning and understanding sort of the intricacies of the group and family businesses and how businesses really work and the type of culture that we have, it's really important for you to understand that, especially if you're going through a transformation from a primarily family-run business to a more professional one. So a lot of the things that we're doing are revolving around performance management, business process planning, budgeting, and then a lot of the sort of innovation or technology that we're bringing in is to make sure that we're able to manage that at least at a level where myself or the 2 or 3 other family members that are there are not having to be involved day to day in the operations of the business. So I think a lot of the technology that we're trying to implement within the family revolves around creating transparency, creating or capturing information and insight to run the businesses, to manage the businesses, to guide the businesses to achieve their objectives. And sitting in a position that is not operative or very hands-on day to day, I think it's more and more important that you have those systems in place. So it's not a lot of rocket science, but I think these are some of the basics that just need to be there. So really we're moving through this transformation within the group. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it will not surprise you that for a lot of family businesses, this is rocket science in many ways.
Yeah.
So let's talk more about this strategy that it's staggering that you guys are thinking about this. Is extremely forward thinking. Seems like this whole forward thinking thing is in the genes. I admire that. As you think about the next generation of customers, and your businesses are somewhat varied. You said retail and then logistics and others as well. When you think about servicing your customers 5, 10 years out, what kind of strategies are you thinking about? How are you sort of amalgamating what is out there for you to take that forward?
Yeah. So I think if you look at the three different verticals that we're in, so there's one healthcare, pharma, there's one sort of retailing, and the last is the distribution and logistics. So I think each of those, some of the strategies that we're putting in place for this whole digital innovation side, they vary from vertical to vertical. So if I just very quickly sort of run through our plans for each of them.
Sure.
In a very sort of holistic way. So I think on the distribution side, a lot of it has to do with digitizing and automation of the processes that we already have, right? It's a very sort of labor-intensive manual process. Distribution, for those of you that don't know, is really getting a product from a warehouse onto the shelf of the retailer, right? And that's really what retail distribution is all about. So a lot of it has to do with physically going shop to shop, getting an order from those stores, sending it back to your warehouse and making sure the next day the van goes and actually delivers the product, collects the cash, and the sale is done. And this has primarily been the way distribution has been handled for forever. I've only seen it done this way. So the areas that we're looking at is really to try to automate this process as much as we can. And of course, along with that, if you're visiting thousands of retailers every month, try to gain some sort of insight from them. Try to understand what's really happening at the ground level, to share with the partners, the people who you represent, on developing their strategies and helping them out. So if I recall, sort of late 90s, so we did go into an initiative of setting up a online portal. That time we used to have the dial-ups. At that time, Pentium 4 was actually a really, really powerful machine, very expensive. And at that time, somebody or the other thought that it was a good idea to, rather than sending these sales officers from store to store, why not just put this portal at the store and have the retailer place the order themselves. So I think if you talk about innovation, that was probably the height of innovation at that time. But the challenge was, and something that I think we will face today, even for us it'll be a challenge, the culture of the organization and the environment that we were working in just didn't allow us to succeed. And today, we're still doing distribution the way we did
Back in the day.
15, 17 years back. So perhaps maybe the idea at that time was a bit more forward-looking, where maybe the technology wasn't there, communication was still difficult. We're talking about dial-ups and Pentium 4s, and today, 3G, 4G, readily available, everything on your mobile phone, smartphone. So for us, I think we look into that area, try to, I think, re-engage that idea within our distribution setup, because to be honest with you, I mean, that's really where the market is moving towards.
Lovely.
It's really difficult and inefficient to actually send physical people store to store to get orders that the storekeeper already knows that he needs. It's just that you just haven't enabled that. So those are some of the ideas that we're taking in, at least on the distribution front. Towards the retail side, for us it's more about getting to know who our customers are, a little bit on analytics, intelligence, try to actually get that data. What are people buying? When are they buying? What are their likes and dislikes? Who is actually buying your products? So it's about consolidating the different retail companies that we have, trying to capture that data, gain some insight, prepare strategies around it, and then move forward. On the healthcare side, so healthcare is actually out of maybe some of the other two verticals, slightly more saturated market, a lot of competition, not a very high level of growth. And there is stiff competition on the healthcare side. So over here, it's important to make sure that, again, you have a lot more insight towards your customers. It's a regulated market, so it's really not to do with who has the best advertising campaign. It's more about relationship management with the doctors. Why will the doctor prescribe your medicine or your solution over
Someone else's.
over the 600 other pharmaceutical companies that are registered in the country. So it's really about making sure that you have that insight, you're able to capture that information, you're able to know what your customer is, and company knowing what the customer is, as opposed to your medical representative that is actually going and visiting the doctors, and then to build strategies around it. So a lot of it has to do with automation of some of the functions that we are already doing, but it's being done through people, and you're reliant on people. Whereas if you can bring it through a system, I think a lot of your sort of best practices that people do, you can try to automate a lot of them. And then eventually people will add that value on top of that and bring the organization up to a certain level. So different companies, different strategies. I think generally if you look at the overall sort of business landscape, and I don't mean to offend any business, but there is really a lot of mediocrity. Even if you look at ourselves, a lot of average business happening, and even those businesses that are successful are doing perhaps slightly above average work. And that makes a lot of difference. So it's really about gearing yourself up to try to improve however you're doing the business today, to do it just a little bit better than the person who's competing or who's sitting next to you. And then hopefully through a process of iteration, continue to evolve, continue to improve, small steps, take the organization along, which is really important, right? Which is what we saw in that case of the whole automation of the order processing, that if the organization's not behind you, or if they don't understand what you're doing, they're really going to pull you back. So when you do bring in innovation in organizations, you need to make sure that the organization is ready, the people are ready, there is a culture in the organization that can allow for innovation to succeed.
To cultivate.
Yeah.
I think you've stole my next question,
Yeah.
which was going to be, seems like you get it. How do you bring this change about in your, not only in your employees? I think I always maintain that technology is not tough, people are. But the partnership that exists between not only your employees and you, but your employees, your partners, and your customers. How do you take them to your level of thinking? Because it seems like you're one of the more forward-looking, visionary folks out there. A lot of your employees might not be, or a lot of your partner companies might not be. What are your thoughts about this as you take this to the next level?
Yeah, so I think of course, changing culture is not easy at all. And really the areas that you need to focus on is, first you got to make your people realize why the change is important. So, I mean, you got to explain to them why it's important in the overall scheme of things, at the bigger picture, and eventually how that's actually going to impact them. If they don't believe that innovation or any technology or any change that you're bringing in an organization is going to impact them positively, they're not going to go for it. And I think that has to do with customers as well as your internal employees as well. To do that is just a lot of hard work, communication, that's it. There are certain strategies, people can go online, read about change management, why it's important. Don't think I need to give a lecture on that. There's a lot of information out there. But really, I think the crux of it is you got to keep your employees engaged, you got to keep communicating with them, and really that story that you create on why this change is necessary and why you need to bring in innovation is really important, especially in organizations that have people that have been there, sort of legacy rankers.
30 years.
They've been there 20 years, 30 years. Everything's okay, everything works okay, everything it's fine. They're getting their increments, they're getting their bonuses. They know exactly what they need to do. So it's really important to be extremely sensitive about that, knowing your organization, and then don't bring in change in like masses. I think a lot has to do with bringing in a little bit of change, showing them what the results are, getting their buy-in that, okay, this is something that you did, it worked, it impacted me positively, made my work easy, improved my performance, and then you take it forward from there. So change management And I'm sure IBM must have some courses on that as well. You may want to do a few courses as well, because I think that's something that's, I think, really important.
Yeah.
And in this day and age, I mean, things are only going to get more competitive, right? With sort of disruptive technology like, ride sharing, for example.
Right.
I mean, if you're not ready for that, and if your organization is not ready for that, I mean, change is going to come.
Yep.
Somebody's going to bring it in. Pakistan is now very open now. I mean, people know that there is a country called Pakistan with tremendous opportunity. I think there's going to be money pumped in, going to be people coming in. If local businesses, family businesses are not ready for that change, and if their organization is not ready, they're going to find it very tough.
They will not survive.
But on the flip side, there's time for that. I don't think that it's going to happen tomorrow. But in the case of taxis, for example, it's happened today.
Sometimes it just hits you.
Yeah. So you got to be ready. I think you got to be ready for that.
All right, perfect. So, Asad, thank you. I'm going to bring the next guest on.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you for this. All right, the next guest, I don't think I need to intro him. Let's just invite him. Javaid Iqbal. Thank you.
I do think it's important to share the other introduction for the audience who may not know that we are actually brothers.
Yes, everybody. He's my younger brother. And no, this was not meant as nepotism. So, let me ask you this. I was thinking about a very apt opening question, and I came up with this. So, as we've been going around the country and even Dubai and other places and taking these Careem rides and talking to these captains like I talked about in my talk as well, I think the slogan, "Thank you, Careem," it's almost up there with "Thank you, Rahil Sharif" now. What are your thoughts about that?
So when we were launching, especially in Pakistan about a year and a half ago, there were a lot of inhibitions of whether this will work or not. And on one end, you had these myths that there aren't enough smartphones, or not many people know how to use smartphones, or 3G penetration is very low. But on the other end, the opportunity was that, you see, in Europe, you already have a public transport infrastructure, which was built 100 years ago. And technologies like ride sharing has gone and disrupted that. In a country like Pakistan, or all the areas where Careem operates, which is Middle East, North Africa, and Pakistan, the infrastructure does not exist, period. So you're actually solving a problem. Now, more than 70% of our users are women.
Wow.
So
I did not know that.
There are women who come up to us and say that I can clearly see my life being different pre and post Careem. Because pre Careem, या अब्बू लेके जाएंगे, या भाई लेके जाएगा, या husband लेके जाएगा, वरना plan cancel. वरना plan cancel. And I think there has been that empowerment, there has been that enablement. And on the flip side, Pakistan has tremendous joblessness. So does the rest of the Middle East. Being able to, if you have a license and if you can drive, there's a job out there for you, because we're always, demand is ahead of supply.
Right.
So there's always demand. And if you own a car, that's even better, because it was never easier to become an entrepreneur. So in Saudi Arabia, 90% of the users are women, because women could not drive on their own,
That's
even
true.
the affluent ones.
That is true.
And there is no public transport available. And if you look at Egypt, a country with massive unemployment, the uptake has been tremendous on the captain side.
Captain side.
And this philosophy of providing people a platform where they can easily generate employment for themselves and giving them respect, and taking driving, or the word driver, from a blue collar job to putting to giving it respect and calling them captains.
Captains.
Is, I think, what has worked for us so far. Have there been problems? Do we face challenges every day? Absolutely. But I think that the overwhelming adaptability and sort of almost gratitude that we get from people is a function of that.
Of that as well. Very nice. So let's talk about your pre-Careem journey. I mean, you have a slide up there, from finance to media to SECP to now technology. Seems like a very confusing profile to many. Is this like a function of confusion? And well, let's say that facetiously, but what I really want to ask is, how has these 3 or 4 different pivots in your career helped you in this journey of Careem?
As to why the confusion, I was recently talking to doctors at the graduating class at Aga Khan, and they'd asked that, they'd said that doctors just remain doctors and just think of themselves as doctors from the age of 18 till the day they die. So can they reimagine, and how do you keep jumping from one place to the other? And I had to really think, what is it that's inspiring me? So when I was in the US, I used to keep saying that, oh, the day PTCL privatizes, I'm going to go back to Pakistan because then opportunities are going to be endless. As luck would have it, TV happened a little before that. My mother sitting here, I don't know why she had the inclination that you should come back and be on TV because you'll be good at it. It seemed like a crazy enough idea, and it happened. And the day the privatization of PTCL was taking place, I was doing the live transmission. So for me, it was a very important moment which connected me to my country, that, okay, I'm part of that change. When I was in financial services, I used to feel like the savings rate in this country is low. If we sell enough mutual funds, we're improving the savings rate, we're improving the economy. When we were doing investment banking and privatization, again, the burning desire was, if these organizations get privatized, their losses come down. Instead of eating money from the exchequer, they start contributing taxes. So we're doing something good. And now it's Careem. With Careem, the ambition or I'd say the passion or the obsession now is, and it's our whole team, that if by 31st December 2020, if we can create 1 million jobs, then we've served our country well. So, so the industries are switching, and it may switch again. But I think there's a glue that's holding it together. In terms of pivoting, I think my first job as a trader, energy trader, where you learn decision-making skills. If I look at Careem, every day, every couple of weeks, we have to do pricing decisions. We have to do incentives for captains. We have to we discuss a marketing plan and we execute it within the next 10 hours. Like Wasim Akram was an idea that was conceived on Thursday afternoon with Afridi as the main name, and by Saturday morning it had been executed. So I think decision making is probably learned by trading. And if you look at the day when Careem was banned by the government for a day, all the skills learned in media came in super handy. So I think all the industries, anywhere you work, you pick up things, and but of course the digital world was completely new for me, and that's where it really started from, ABC. But it's fun to now look back at the industries I worked in, or look at the industries around, and sometimes I think to myself, in बेचारों को पता नहीं इनके साथ होने वाला क्या है. So, like, especially banks, etc.
Oh yeah, banks are going through that. So it's a great transition to the next question, which I had for you as well, which is exactly this, and Asad alluded to this as well. But most of these businesses that are right now really operating in the physical world, they have to come up with a digital strategy to survive. Companies like Careem were born digital. So while you are ahead of the curve on the digital side, the handoff between the digital world and the physical world, where the app meets the rider and the physical pickup happens, is where nirvana happens. That you may not be as ahead of the curve on. So it's a chicken and an egg, but what's your perspective on, being on both sides already now, in terms of, are you better off with this, or having to change a whole industry into this would be more sort of fun to do and so forth.
I'll take the
Challenges
lead
as well.
from two things. One thing that Dr. Izhar said, that maybe as many people are not in tune with the digital world.
Okay.
And this was a shocker for me because 139 million smartphones exist today already. Q Mobile itself is selling more than 1.2 million phones. The 3G penetration has gone to about 34 million. So if someone can cater to just this market, this is huge. The second lead I'll take in answering that question is based on what you said, that when Uber launched in the US, a lot of the technology pieces already existed, and maybe in Pakistan you said 4 out of 10 exist. I think 9 out of 10 exist. Let me give you a few examples.
Yeah.
For instance, we have Ghias here, the CEO of Engro Corp. Engro Foods is a successful company, so is Nestle. They compete neck to neck. Now, to me, I don't know why the boxes of Allpers and Nestle don't have a QR code. A QR code already exists. For those who don't know, it's that fuzzy little box that on things which you can, if you point your smartphone camera, it will do magic on its own. You can code it to pull the location, pull whatever you want. So if I was Nestle or Engro Foods, I would put a QR code on every box, and I'd say scan this and get XYZ gift in the mail. And when I'd get that data, I'd code it to pick up the location of where that box is being consumed. And now suddenly when I take that data and I put it on a map, I can tell in a granular way that which neighborhood of Gulshan Iqbal has a higher penetration of Allpers or has a higher penetration of Nesvita. And then I'll call my friend Asif Jafri sitting right here, and I'll say, here are the buckets where Nestle is doing better than me or Allper is doing better than me. Can you send targeted SMSs
To
and
them.
WhatsApp messages to this particular neighborhood? And that can be done because based on location and based on the things that telcos do, you can geo-fence based on the mobile, what do you call it, towers. You can geo-fence your messaging. You can geo-fence your marketing.
Right.
You can then reach out to cable operators. So this is a very simple example of how
Markets can
physical
be created
old school
and-
businesses can come to the next generation. Now let me give you a much simpler example of really forward thinking that I saw more than a year ago. So if you're a textile business or a garment business, or if you're an exporter, any exporter, Pakistan has so many exporters, leather, this, that. A part of your company spends a large part of your day calling freight forwarders. अच्छा जी इसका क्या रेट है, सियाटल का क्या रेट है, गोंगजू का क्या, इसका चाइना का क्या रेट है, and then that person calls the shipping line. They call Maersk, they call APL. If you're a big company, you'll have direct relationships with Maersk and APL. If you're a small company, you'll call a freight forwarder who'll call and it'll give you. Now Shabazz Garments is a famous company which makes gloves. 3 years ago, they made a simple website. Every week, they post which shipments they have coming up. And they allow any freight forwarding company or shipping company to create an account
And bid.
and bid for it. So all they do is they upload this, and it's a simple website. Those who know how technology works, it's a simple database and a simple interface. How much will it cost to make?
Not much.
$2,000. If you want to invest a lot on its interface, maybe $3,000.
Not even that.
Not even that. But imagine the amount of money they must have saved by doing something so simple. So think about it. Typical glove manufacturer taking physical goods, throwing it in a container, sending it to wherever they're exporting it to, but using such simple tools already available here to optimize their process. It's a matter of time that someone will get a license, or one of these, Finja is here, and Kinu is here, and Innovate is here. The kind of stuff they're doing in fintech. The interesting thing is when I speak to senior bankers, they have no
idea.
clue what these guys are
Absolutely
doing.
no idea.
So disruption is upon us. It's not going to happen. If you're running a traditional business in Pakistan and you think, because we're in Pakistan, we've got a couple of years of go time? Absolutely not. I read a hashtag saying innovation audit. This is the day you need to see, look at your business, do an innovation audit, and see if you're prepared. So you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So आप कह रहे हैं कि तब्दीली आ नहीं रही है, तब्दीली आ चुकी है। और डरना चाहिए इस तब्दीली से मेरा ख्याल है। So I was just reading, I was just giving a presentation in the US last month, where one of the tenets was how some of these forward-thinking ride-sharing, especially Uber and the likes, are thinking about what to do next and what to take on next. And since you have the last mile covered, आप घर तक जा ही रहे हैं लोगों के, you've got that supply chain done. But now they want to take on the bigger picture. They want to start disrupting FedEx and UPS and others as well, and bring their own freights and so forth. Obviously, lofty goals, there's a lot more involved than just dropping people off or delivering food and so forth. Without giving much of Kareem's strategy, I wouldn't want you to divulge in that. Is there another problem that's on the horizon that you would like to solve, potentially?
I mean, first and foremost, transport itself is so broken and non-existent that if we continue to solve this for several years, we still won't get anywhere. We'll still scratch the surface. Now, having said that, the Lego pieces are coming together on their own. For instance, Kareem has a wallet, right? So if you have extra cash or you end a ride and the captain doesn't have ample change, you tell them, ye mere wallet mein dal do. Or you can actually give the money to the captain the day you have extra cash and say, just top up my wallet. Now, these are loaded wallets. Now, our friend Zen's here, who's the head of Daraz. Tomorrow, on the Daraz website, you could be paying through Easy Paisa or your debit card, or do cash on delivery, or use Kareem Pay. So that's one potential pivot. But then, if you go beyond mobility, which is personal mobility, the number of users of a platform like this are enormous. So last mile delivery, collection. They keep saying 40% of milk gets wasted in Pakistan. 40% of fruit production gets wasted in Pakistan. Well, how about farmers being able to take a picture of their crop, being able to upload it, and have a company like us send a tactical Shazor-sized truck or a bigger truck, pick up the extra produce, put it in a grain silo, because you're looking at live data from Sabzi Mandi and seeing that the rates are too low for tomatoes. So how about throw that in a grain silo, 30 kilometers outside of Karachi, let it sit there in a temperature controlled environment till it's the right time to move. So it'll be the partnership of companies like the Engros of the world and Kareems of the world, which will solve for food wastage. And this is where it's in the keen interest of companies like Carrefour, like the big, or Macro, or Metro, the big retailers, the big wholesalers, who would play a keen role in being a first customer, a first mover over here. And this is how you'll disrupt. If we go beyond, I mean, barbers on demand, doctors on demand, these are just very simple additions. Now, when someone asks me, why haven't you done this and this and this already? My only answer is talent. Throw more talent at us. If you look at our team, obviously every team has, X% rock stars. I think we've been very lucky that maybe 60% of our team members are rock stars. Yes, if you can double that,
then you can do a lot
overnight,
more.
We can start doing so much more. Because the field is completely open.
Excellent. Well, I think before you start stealing Ghias' thunder with these farmer talks, I think I'm going to stop you right there and get him on. Thank you, Junaid.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so he graduated from here, this very institution. He takes a lot of pride about this as well. He's risen up the ranks pivoted many times and solved a lot of problems for us as well. First on the technology side, and now he's doing much bigger things as well. Please welcome Ghias Khan. Aye. So welcome to IBA.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, and thank you Javaid, thank you Dr. Saab and the IBA management for inviting me here today. You know, when I was walking in today, Javaid reminded me of November of '94. That was the time when I was coming here with you know, quite a few of our friends, because all of us were eagerly awaiting the final results of IBA admissions, and that was after the final sort of process, and saw my name on the list, started jumping around, you know, called up my father. It was a very special moment, and IBA is very, very close to my heart, and this is a special moment too.
So, well, let's make it more special for you guys then. So the first 150 days at Engro.
You don't waste any time, do you?
How's it going there?
So, Javaid, I joined the board of Engro Corp in February of last year. And it was the first week of October of last year when it was announced that I will take over from Mr. Subhani when he retires on the 30th of November. So those 45 days in a sort of a designate role gave me enough time to sort of integrate with the companies and get into their planning cycles and get an understanding of the company. Obviously, I wasn't coming from a background of any of the businesses that the conglomerate right now is involved in. So that was a good start for me. On a personal level, yes, it was overwhelming, and but you know, what I figured out, the way to handle that is sort of break it down, break the job down into small tasks. And the first step was very, very clear, to have an idea of what are the functions that will be required to perform the job, and then just to build the right team. And I went all out for that, you know, selecting people from within the business and inducting people from outside. And then bringing about some other changes in the management of the company, which now allows me a lot more time to focus on the most important things, which is growth for the overall corporation and growth for the overall, or for the individual businesses. So it's been a fantastic 150 days.
Well, I'm excited for you. So, you grew up running a technology company. You had many pivots in there, and in your business strategy as well, and so forth. How has that helped you sort of take this role on? And kind of what I was asking Junaid as well earlier, on his journey as well. How has that sort of built the foundations for how you tackle these very complex and hairy things that probably come across your desk every day?
Javaid, if you look at the face of it, and it's really a comparison of, I mean, it's chalk and cheese, right? So you're talking about a technology company in Pakistan which had a turnover of about 4 billion, and on the other hand is perhaps one of the largest conglomerates with a turnover of over 160 billion. So on the face of it, there's obviously no comparison between the two positions. But if we go just one level deeper, and if we sort of look at the function that Engro Corp performs, and it is the holding company of the entire Engro group. And let's suppose if you were to ask someone in the business that, what is Engro Corp? And so the typical answer that you'd probably receive is, well, this is the company which is our parent company, provides us all the resources, sets the compensation philosophy, approves projects, and provides overall leadership, and is the owner of the Engro brand. You ask the same question to a shareholder, and their reply would be, well, this is the company which is responsible for judicious management of our capital. It is responsible to make sure that everyone performs well and the right people are placed in the right jobs. Same company, two different perspectives.
Right.
One coming from an owner, the other coming from a management. So that's, just keep that in mind. When I started Inbox, and that was a year and a half after graduating from IBA, I became part owner and CEO of the company. So wore both hats of an owner and a manager. And during the course, there were just numerous decisions that had to be made, where I would wear my owner hat, then I would wear my CEO hat. And just to give you an example, when I started the company, I started with something like 15,000 rupees of salary, right? It was a cut of about 20,000 from what I was making in my job. And the spirit was that, look, I'm a partner in this company, so I'm just going to take a low salary, right? And so did other partners as well. 3 years, 4 years down the road, we get bought over by this big group, and I've got one kid and one kid on the way, and then it's not the same spirit. I need, you need to keep the kitchen running, and that's where you start, you wear the hat of management, that look, I'm a CEO, and I want to get paid, and that's where you start negotiating your incentives, and it's a completely different sort of side. Then you sort of come across a situation where your business is not working out, and as an owner, you have to make that call of shutting down that business. But then as management, as CEO, you have to stand in front of 80 people and say that you won't have a career. So and that's not a very pleasant experience. And there were times later on when your owner would once sort of shareholders walked in and said that we probably are not interested in being part of this business anymore, and we would like to sell out. And so, and it would be very, very disappointing, because you've spent about 10, 12 years of your life building a business, and getting this response from a shareholder who's been with you for a long time, for all the right reasons, but it's just very, very disappointing. And then again, you would just get a bunch of people together and give an offer to the shareholders to buy out the company. It never happened, but it's just living at the confluence of ownership and management over 15 years is, I think, helped me a lot in understanding how this is done at an institutional level at Engro Corp. Because Engro Corp is about looking after the money of the shareholders, at the same time representing the management of so many businesses.
So many others. Love that perspective. Very nice. Let's change gears a little bit. So the theme obviously is digital innovation and so forth. And obviously you're not foreign to technology. You kind of grew up in this piece as well. But where do you see digital in Engro's future, and what does that mean to you?
Well, Javaid, first of all, I've been in the technology field for 15 years, but a few things have surprised me as well. So in December of last year, I was at the World Economic Forum, got an opportunity to go there. And honestly, it seemed like I was at some IT conference. Because all that was being talked about was digital, artificial intelligence, and IT overall. And that sort of told me something, that IT and digital is not just about enabling businesses anymore. It is having a direct impact on world economy and your society. Yep. And hence, it is being taken up in such a way at the premier economic forum of the world. Similarly, I was at this recently at this conference organized by GE. And GE is like, it makes aircraft engines, it makes turbines, medical equipment, and then there was this particular event where it was a fireside chat between Bob Dudley, the CEO of British Petroleum, and Jeff Immelt, the CEO of GE. And the last question was very telling. So it was Jeff Immelt who asked Bob Dudley that if you had $1 to invest in any business, what would it be? And he said digital.
Wow.
So that's how some of the non-traditional sort of companies are now thinking about digital and IT. So that's how big it is. As far as Engro is concerned, and I'll take the example of our flagship company, Engro Fertilizers. It's been in business for over 60 years, is a manufacturer of urea and provider of other micronutrients. We're now looking at this business to play a much bigger role in the agri-services place, something that Junaid alluded to earlier. And not just on the output side, but on the input side as well. And what I mean by that is, and just to step back a little and look at some of the statistics, in a country where 20% of the GDP, or a little over 20% of the GDP comes from the agriculture economy, where about 43% of the people are employed in this sector, the yields in our country on most of the major crops are about 40 to 50% lower than global averages. On the output side as well, Junaid, as you mentioned, there is a lot of wastage. There is a whole big problem of farmer credit and financing and microfinancing solutions to the farmer, and that is actually the crux of the entire problem. And it is one hell of a complex problem to solve. But the position that, mashallah, say Engro is in, and it is almost an expectation of people that Engro will rise to the occasion and raise its hand to go after solving this problem. But how will it be solved, right? So you're talking about 8.5 million farmers, educating them, providing them the right nutrients, giving them information about their crop, about the soil, about usage of fertilizer and seeds and pesticides, and then giving them the right information about crops, their pricing, and other farm-to-market opportunities. It cannot be done without technology. You can't practically be calling, 8.5 million farmers, and roughly about 2.5 million in case of Engro. So if we are to solve this problem, which we are very, very committed to, it cannot be done without technology. It's very clear. So that's the kind of role that we are looking at as far as Engro is concerned, its businesses are concerned, and
on the digital side.
On the digital side.
It's funny, Asad said the same thing, his retail side, his pharma stuff as well. You need technology to sort of go and do that. You can't let the people run around wirelessly and make that happen as well. But, this is interesting. So farmer, I'm always interested in knowing how we're solving problems for the human. So I want to dig in one step deeper in the farmer side, if we may. One last question on that. So assuming you arm the farmer with some of these things, what do you want to get out of that farmer? I mean, Junaid talked about a little bit of what would you give them? How would you interface with them?
It's just making them more productive. At the end of the day, what you're doing is that if let's suppose in a year or 2 years down the road, I was having a chat with the CEO of Telenor the other day, and asked him this question, that when do you think it will be possible for majority of the farmers to have smartphones who could do live chats with someone sitting in a call center, obviously in multiple languages, and providing them the information about what they should do with what crop and what nutrient, and exchanging pictures, and again what Junaid alluded to, giving pricing. So it's, like I said, it is undoubtedly a problem worth solving. It is a huge opportunity for Pakistan overall, and it cannot be done without digital and technology. It's just as simple as that.
It's funny, I'll share a small story of Coca-Cola over here. So in the US, Coca-Cola realized that their orange juice division, Minute Maid, was only producing fresh orange juice, I think 4 months out of the year. And living in the US for 2 decades, I don't even know, I never knew what fruit was out of season because every fruit was always available. So they wanted to solve the problem to find fresh fruit for that fresh orange juice 12 months out of the year. So they went on a technology rampage, and they figured out an algorithm, and they call it the black book algorithm. And that algorithm computed 1 quintillion data points I don't even know what quintillion is. It's just a lot, right? Billion is a lot. Quintillion is like way more than that. Every aspect of the soil, every aspect of the weather, every aspect of the human error, every aspect of technology, every aspect of process, and everything else involved was quantified into this one formula. And what was scary to me, and I talked about this in my address at the supply chain conference in DC last month, was that the entire future of your division hinges on a math formula with artificial intelligence and so on. How scary is that? So as we look at solving some of these problems, obviously not to this scale of Coca-Cola's out here as well, how, so you got the, the farmer, the technology and so forth.
It is scary, Javaid. Sorry.
No, please go ahead.
It is scary because, we were talking about it the other day, about 60% of the jobs that our kids will, inshallah, end up are not even there. They don't exist
right now, yeah.
In some countries, 75% of the people will be unemployed. I mean, some of the figures are staggering, right? So it is a very, very scary scenario.
So the farmer side was more, how you're dealing with the human, the consumer, the whatever. But bulk of your business is also very industrial, very B2B, and I understand with GE on a few initiatives as well. How do you take this digital thing in a very traditional B2B environment?
Yeah, a good question, Javaid. And since we're in the power generation space and we're also in manufacturing of PVC and of course fertilizer, amongst others, the reasons are different slightly because and as you rightly said that we've signed up with GE last year in co-developing and co-marketing applications around the industrial Internet of Things, and those are mostly around asset performance and across different sort of industrial verticals, and the reason for us going into that is because this industry is also becoming. These industries are also becoming very, very competitive, and everyone is feeling the need to sort of get the last juice of efficiency out of all machines. So yes, it is very compelling, and it's actually produced very good results for us. So if you look at the performance in the first quarter of one of our companies, Engro Power Gen Kadarpur Limited, where we have implemented performance improvement solutions, you'll see that the company has performed better. I mean, there have been other reasons why the Q1 profitability has been better. There's some one-offs in there, but enhancement of performance of the assets is one of the major reasons.
Well, excellent. So we'll keep it softer as well, and before we give the audience, I know you guys have probably heard a lot of questions by me. I can sit here for 3 more hours and do it. Trust me. But I'd like to open this up. But before I do that, Ghias, I know, again, coming back to this being a very special moment for you, and we have some students in the audience and some young ones as well that aspire to sort of succeed as well. What would be a good message to give the students, assuming your life after IBA and at IBA as well and so forth?
That's work hard, guys. That's message number one. Just work really, really hard. And not in spurts. It's every day. It's every week, every month, every year. It's just that's the only thing in your control. Rest is in His control. Always remember that. So that's one. There are a few more.
Go for it.
Stay close to family and friends, and there is a reason why I say family and friends, because for me, because of gentlemen like him, friends are like family. So
yes, he's a friend of mine.
Yeah, so I've known him for the last 27 years. So
27.
So that's one. Then play a sport. I think that's very, very important, and play at a level where it's competitive. I mean, you don't need to play for the national team, but just keep yourself involved in a sport. It has really helped me, because it teaches you a lot. For one thing, if you play seriously, it teaches you teamwork, leadership. It teaches you how to handle failure, because you're not going to win every time.
Right.
And I think that's very, very important, because you know what, when you're playing seriously and if you lose, you go back and you practice and you try harder. And that gets ingrained in your mind, which is so important in so many other aspects of life. And last but not the least, dream, because I think that's very important. We all have dark patches in our life, and some last longer than others, and all you have to hang on to is your dreams. So do that as well. So thank you very much.
So on that note of dreaming, let us open this up to questions. Do we have mics for the audience? Gentleman up front.
Thank you, Javaid. That was a very interesting session. I have a comment and a question for actually Junaid. Junaid, you mentioned that 70% of Kareem's users are females, but I understand it also has a very good captain program for females, Amira, which has been rolled out very well in Saudi and also in Pakistan. I just want you to elaborate on that, some numbers and the impact that it's made on female entrepreneurs.
So we have launched female captains in Pakistan. People ask us, can you do a for women, by women service? Unfortunately, it's not possible anymore, because there are so many women users that we'll never be able to find as many women captains to drive them. And if you come up with a car type which is for women and by women, and that's the one they'll always pick. And so you will never be able to dispatch enough. It's been a little disappointing, because we've launched women captains. We've not been able to get enough. If you look at all the 6 cities combined, there's only a few dozen compared to thousands and thousands of male captains. We're trying to work with various organizations which work for women's empowerment. We're trying to build programs. To be honest, we have not cracked it yet. And I think everything has a tipping point. I don't know what will get us to that tipping point, but we haven't cracked it yet. There are a lot of inquiries. There's a lot of interest, but there is still a bit of a hesitation. So I think we've gone through the first step, where women who previously didn't use public transport are now using public transport. The next step is them being a part of public transport. And when we were launching, I was 100% certain not a single woman would use Kareem in Pakistan, and especially in Karachi, because it's unsafe. Our average is 70%. In Karachi, it's a little more. In Lahore, it's less. So Lahore is a safer city, but it seems Karachi is a more emancipated town.
And progressive. Someone on this side.
Yeah. My question is also Junaid on the same topic as well. Actually, there are two questions. One is that you have mentioned 70% of your clients are females. So great powers become great responsibilities. So, like, on what areas you're working now in terms of awareness, more awareness on female empowerment? Do you see this is a great platform for you? And can you come up with more examples where you can inspire more females, to get more opportunities for Pakistan? Another one is, we're listening a lot about, because of the culture issues of drivers not handling females well. What is your vision in terms of training them, the drivers? Are you already doing something like that, or are you looking for opportunities? What is your vision on that?
It's an excellent, both excellent questions. So the first one is, I think it'll take a little bit of time to break that mold, to break that clutter. Our first female captain she was a lady in her early 50s with grown kids, and she was a single parent. Her husband passed away, and when the day we were training her and she was about to go online in a few hours, I said कि मैडम आप बाहर जा रही हैं गाड़ी में, लेकिन मुझे थोड़ा सा डर लग रहा है, आप तैयार हैं ना? उसने कहा बेटा ज़िंदगी में बड़ा कुछ देखा है, और कुछ हो ना हो, बस मर्दों से मुझे अब डर नहीं लगता. So I guess we'll need a lot more trailblazers like her. Now, in terms of harassment, and thank God no crazy untoward incident has happened, but incidents like a captain saying, "Oh, आप बहुत अच्छी लग रही हैं," या वो ये कपड़े आपने बड़े अच्छे पहने हैं. In one particular incident, this lady who's a very regular user came out of her apartment complex, and the captain actually gave her a very nice smile and said, "कि जी, you know, आपने बड़े अच्छे कपड़े पहने हुए, आप बहुत अच्छी लग रही हैं. इस बिल्डिंग से वैसे ज़्यादातर जो निकलती हैं वो जीन्स टी शर्ट वाली निकलती हैं." Now, in his mind, he was giving her a compliment, right? So, the first slide of training that takes place, every captain has to go through training, and every captain goes through a 7-point background check. They register, they go through the training, they take a test. If they pass, then they go through a background check, which typically used to take 10 days, now takes about 4 days, where their home is scanned. We drop a Google pin at their house, we get a police report, we get a copy of 2 bills, we verify their ID card with Nadra, we check their license, and there is a neighborhood reputation check done by RCS, the company run by Ikram Sehgal साहब, और सब कहानी वहाँ से निकल आती है. इस सब के बावजूद जो उनको ट्रेन करते हैं कि एक तो एक्चुअल हरासमेंट, फिजिकल हरासमेंट क्या होती है, वर्बल हरासमेंट क्या होती है, फिजिकल जेस्चर्स के साथ हरासमेंट क्या होती है, giving them awareness कि even adjusting your back view mirror to sort of focus on a young lady is harassment. Complimenting them, it's not your job to compliment them on the clothes. So ये awareness भी build हो रही है. And now when I think about it, an average Pakistani guy interacts with his mother, his sister, at best his first cousin, that too till the age of 12. And after that, a normal Pakistani man has no interaction with the female gender. That's the bulk of our population. So in a way, while some of these incidents happen, कि वो बड़ी अच्छी तरह अपनी तरफ से compliment दिया and that goes wrong, एक desensitization भी हो रही है, and एक behavior भी सीख रहे हैं. There are captains who previously, when they first got into a ride, had never spoken to a na-mahram khatun. Now they've done 3,000 rides. So there is that social change that's also happened. I hope that answered your question.
Very interesting.
The question is open for the whole panel. My question would be, I'll try to phrase it in terms of artificial intelligence. Where are we headed in terms in Pakistani market? And when it comes to a particular business, in terms of data collection, if you want to advise a company to start digitizing, go on the drawing board, what would be the first step they want to do? Because it's just a perception that if, like somebody said in the panel as well, that having a Facebook and a Twitter page is what digital is all about, which is not, right? So where do you go from that first step? And what sort of tools for analytics would you guys recommend? Would they be something which is there in the market, just bring it up and buy a software for a year and get analytics for that, or get a customized software made for your own organization in terms of that, according to the need of the organization? That's my question.
Yes, you want to take that first? Talk about AI?
You want to say? Why don't you talk? In our company, we have identified areas and points in which you can actually capture data. So that's the first thing you want to do, right? You want to see your operations and see कहाँ से मैं data collect कर सकता हूँ and find a solution to try to capture that data. Simply put, customer service के लिए एक बहुत simple tool है NPS. For physical retail stores today, we do not capture NPS, but for stores online and even Kareem, you'll always get this thing, rate your captain, right? That's the NPS score. So for us, it's just about getting a very simple technology into the store, onto the portal, and start capturing that information. So that's really, sort of drilled down very basic. On the AI side, I think तो कुछ काम चल रहा है, the people there that are doing AI, and in certain instances, I think it's extremely helpful. So I think on, for example, on the agriculture side, so we also do things on agriculture. We sell pesticides. So to forecast pest pressure or to forecast fertilizer offtake, I mean, those are areas where AI can really come in very, very good use, right? Because you plan in advance, a lot of investment. So things like that. And then even on the manufacturing side, so for AI, about figuring out, when and how a machine may break down based on data that has been pumped into that system, all those data points that even you're talking about. So those applications are there. There are people doing it. It really depends on what value you can drive out of that intelligence. On the BI side, so there are tools there that you can use. Something that we use is Power BI, Microsoft ka. बहुत simple hai. Get a license, do a little bit of programming. There is some science to it, but it's not rocket science. You can find a vendor to do it for you, or you can just tweak around and try to figure out some of the tools as well. But really, it depends on what you're looking for. There are far more advanced tools as well. Even in Microsoft Power BI, the ones that we're using are fairly simple, fairly basic. You have to make sure that, if you use a tool, it should not just remain a dashboard that you could make on Excel or on PowerPoint, which a lot of companies do. They think that BI tools are dashboard tools. It's really about, the person who's using it needs to derive some intelligence out of that as well, right? So it really depends on where you are on that whole intelligence culture within your organization. You can pick a tool. Tableau is another one, very expensive. I think $1,000 for the license for the year. Power BI, I think आपको $1 में जो है वो महीने के license में मिल जाएगा.
There's so many.
So really it depends. But there are a lot of options available.
Let's talk about the AI part. What have you guys thought about?
Well, let's just to, well, on the AI, Javaid, to be honest, there's not a lot of work that we've done up till now. So I mean, at least at this time, I don't see much relevance to Engro as far as that is concerned. But on the data side, as far as our industrial units are concerned, like we're working with GE on their platform, which is called PredX. There's just incredible amount of data which is being produced by those machines. It's just a matter of analyzing it and then putting it to use in terms of preventive maintenance and everything, and taking measures proactively. As far as the agriculture side is concerned, that's a real problem because data is not readily available. I know that the governments are taking sort of initiatives on that. I know that Government of Punjab is taking an initiative through a program which is called, which they're calling the Connected Agriculture Punjab program or something like that, right. In which the idea is to sort of collect data and then obviously put it to use. On the BI side, I would agree with Asad. It's the host of BI solutions out there that can be used.
Somebody at the back as well.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Natasha, and I have a question to Javaid Saab. As a digital futurist, what future do you see for education in digital? Because do we need more IBS? Do we need more formal sort of education? Because this is the talk of the town these days, and I would like you to comment on that.
So something very near and dear to my heart. I do advise a few conferences on this as well. Education is interesting. I think the brand of education that we went through, and I think Dr. Saab talked about this a little bit as well, in terms of formalized education, was very limiting. My beef with that particular scenario was that some people sat in a room and said, this is what we are going to instill in the students, and this is how we will test them, and if they come up with the right answers to our questions, then they're victorious. Now, if you were not victorious on that part, then you're a failure. I've always thought that that was a very limiting way, and in terms of how technology was just not there to deliver even the ways of learning. The ways of classroom learning come from the industrial age, back in the early 1900s, where on factory floors they would actually put these people in multiple rows and teach them how to do assemblies and so forth. And it's sad that we're still sort of in that same mindset, although some of that is evolving as well. So education itself has gone through a lot of leaps and bounds in recent years. If you look at YouTube, if you look at Khan Academy, I don't know how much familiarity people have with that as well, Coursera, and so others. The premise is starting to become on the person rather than the teacher. So they provide you a curricula as well as the learnings, and you do self-learning in a community-based. So, everybody combines to teach you. It's your fellow students, it's your professors, it's your community, it's the web, it's everybody. Because ultimately, the quest for knowledge or learning something to apply something is very different than learning something to test for something. So there's a lot of gaps, especially in the developing world, where we're still looking at those very archaic ways to take this divide forward as well. And I'm happy to have more conversations about that as well.
Can I just add something on that as well?
Please, by all means.
So on the education front, so you have your private schools. Most of us have been fortunate to study in private schools, maybe go abroad and study. So I think agar Pakistan mein dekhein, so there's a major issue as far as education is concerned in rural Pakistan. There are organizations like Citizens Foundation that are trying to provide education, but even with 1,000 schools spread across, they're still really educating 100, 150,000 students, right? So, I mean, it's a tremendous effort that they've done, but building bricks and mortar schools and 1,000 of them and only being able to educate 150,000, how many more schools will they need to build for them to actually educate the rest of Pakistan? Right. So I do know of a case of a not-for-profit that's working on and then there's a whole cultural issue as well, right? A lot of people don't send their daughters to school because of cultural reasons. या लोग मदरसे भेजते हैं for religious education. So I know of this not-for-profit. They're doing fantastic work. They're actually developing now because tablets are so cheap and connectivity is so cheap. So they're actually building a curriculum on their tablets. They're developing content themselves, local content relevant for local people, starting from sort of kindergarten, primary education, and then working their way up. So if we talk about digital technology, I mean, to educate Pakistan in the masses, this is probably the key tool to try to get a lot of our children that are unfortunate enough not to have access to school or not allowed to go to school to actually get homeschooled through these curriculums and technologies. Learning the iPad or the tablets for children, I mean, you hand it over there, 1-year-old will be able to figure out what to do with the swipe rights and the swipe left, right? So children are very intuitive.
Yeah, you're there.
It's just providing that technology to them. So there are people that are doing this. I personally know somebody who is actually doing it. If you go and see his setup, it's amazing. And they're building their own content locally, which was important because they felt that a lot of the content that you could get abroad and then dub it in Urdu or Sindhi or Seraiki or one of the local languages, because the characters, the dress, the environment were not culturally relevant, they felt that they needed to build the content themselves. So they're doing some really good work.
No, that's staggering. Okay. I think every model is needed because, even 10 IBAs in Karachi are not enough in my opinion. Absolutely. Not only the delivery of education, but also the presence of education. And I think with the population that we have, and we'll figure out what comes out after the census as well. You know, we just cannot have one IBA per a city like this.
I think just a very brief comment that like most other industries and other things that are broken, when it comes to Pakistan, you don't need to disrupt education. You need to provide education. So it's, actually you need to let that system run as well. No solution is a bad solution right now because the problem is so large.
Yeah. Go ahead,
May
please. Absolutely.
First of all, let me congratulate you, young fellows, to bring us a fascinating talk. Digitalization is enhancing businesses, making people more efficient, etc., etc. However, my concern for Pakistan is the people who are going to be left behind. Does your digital technology also can provide a solution so the gap between have and have-nots would lessen? A, as we approach, it's going to be a knowledge-based economy, as we all know. So जो हमारे illiterates जो कि actually illiterates हैं, digital world, how can they help them to what you call achieve an accelerated learning process? और कुछ जो उनके दिमागों में दूसरी चीज़ें भरी हुई हैं उसको accelerated learning process. So does your digital world looking into that part solutions?
So as was spoken about earlier as well, if your productivity in your core sector can go up multi-folds, then that in itself will have a tremendous impact. And I'm talking about agriculture. If you're going to help, if you can help the farmer make more money, I think that's just going to have an incredible impact overall, not just on the economy but society as well, because you know it will have a tremendous impact. So I think there's definitely more to gain.
I would actually answer this in a very different way. My personal perspective is very different. In fact, if there was a time for complete inclusion into the economy for everyone, it's now. Now, we think that people who've not gone through formal education will not be able to use a smartphone or a device or whatever. And that's not true. And we've seen how quickly captains who got very basic education or had no education at all have learned how to use maps, but they use visual memory, right? कि इस button से ये होता है, इस button से ये होता है. For example, आज Lahore में, while we were speaking, I was showing the clip to Ghias sahab here कि outside Arfa Tower, Firozpur Road is blocked because rickshaw has done a strike. All the rickshaws have done a strike against Kareem. Now the interesting thing is we've been trying to reach out to the rickshawalas and saying come on to our platform. It's the middlemen who are creating, having some fun. But then it's nothing that an Urdu app cannot solve.
Yeah.
Right? So you have the app in Urdu and that's it, you've solved it. We're already talking to our friends at Google, some of them are here. Soon enough we'll have an Urdu Google Maps and that problem is solved. You're a lady who's at home and you know how to cook. I mean, soon this घर का खाना पी के ऐप, जिस तरह आप फूड पैंडा से KFC मंगाते हैं, आप किसी और से पीयर टू पीयर उनके घर से खाना मंगाएंगे, ठीक है? सो और उसकी रेटिंग होगी कि किसी ने अपने घर पे बिरयानी बनाई, मैंने उसको बटन स्वाइप राइट किया, so now I'm going to get that biryani. That person has already received the payment in her Easy Paisa account. The closest Kareem rider picks up the biryani from her house, brings it to my house, and in this entire conversation, in this entire transaction, which includes multiple people, not a single conversation took place and the money moved digitally. So I think that if there was a time in the world for entrepreneurship to flourish, especially in the C2C economy, me selling to you, you selling to me, one-on-one,
platform,
it's now. So while large industries will have fewer people doing bigger jobs or having more output, the opportunities for individuals to serve individuals is also going to be enormous. So it'll balance out.
Well, while you're solving that problem, if someone can solve a Lifafa app problem where you have to go to Shadis and drop Lifafas and walk away, I think that'll do as well. So I'm being told that IBA starts on time and ends on time as well. I'm afraid we don't have any time for formal questions, but these gentlemen are here for a little while on refreshments as well, so you guys can get your questions as well. One last plug I will give as well. So next month, if you like what I saw, if you like what you saw, we're doing a deep dive into this. It is a 2-day workshop that IBA has organized as well. Dr. Saab is blessed with that as well. We have representatives from Google, Daraz, and a few others as well in there. So do sign up, tell your friends about it, and so forth. And I believe that's a wrap. And one more plug on the last one. If you believe that you are at the cusp of innovation, or you want to learn innovation, or you don't have a strategy at all, and you want to audit your innovation, let us know. We're here to help. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Please give us a moment, just few minutes.
A few more minutes.
There are some token of appreciation for the guests.
Okay.
Just 2 minutes.
Thank you.
I do not want to hold between you and tea. I would like to invite Dr. Izhar Hussain and Siptan Naqvi Saab. Siptan, by the way, has written Chronicles of IBA, the history of IBA. The book is available at Liberty Books. Memento for Mr. Asad Abdullah, please. Mr. Ghias Khan.
That's it, please.
I have been told today that this is the first ever session the two brothers are doing today.
So we have created history.
So to make their moment, I would like to invite their mother.
Oh, wow. Well, Ammi, you're on stage.
A memento for Javaid Iqbal Sahab.
It did its own family affair, I guess.
And lastly, the memento for Javaid Iqbal Sahab.
What do I need money? No, Dr. Saab, मेरे लिए भी. अच्छा आप दे दो.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us tonight. You can use all the 4 exits. You will reach T faster from the front doors. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. अच्छा हो गया.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.